Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I'll show you this first. I had a late night on Friday because of the meeting, and I have stuff to pack up, so I can't just sort of, thank you for coming, see you all again next time, out of the chair, in the car, gone. I can't do that. I've got things I have to pack up and pack away and stuff. And sometimes I can't do it straight away because there's other things in the way and I can't get at it because I'm in charge of the sound system. And people put boxes of plants and stuff down the side and I can't get at it to pack it up. So I didn't get home till quite late. So that for me, that's a late night. And I'm just waking up early virtually every day now. A lot of it is getting up to go to the loo, but it's like I've said before, if it's after 4 o'clock, there's just not a lot of point for me going back to bed because I won't get back to sleep, so I just get up. And then last night, Saturday night, I made the mistake, silly me, but I washed my bedding, and during the day and the evening I forgot to deal with it. So when I came to go to bed I thought, so I've only got one set. I normally dry it in the day that I wash it and put it back on nice and fresh. So I thought, oh blow it, I'll go to sleep on the settee. So I put my dressing gown on top of my clothes so that I stayed warm, but I didn't sleep well. So anyway, long story short, same sort of thing happened again, except, so 4:15, I thought, no, I need to go to the loo. And I sat back down in the chair and got comfy, and I sat there for a while. I thought, I'm not going to go to sleep, am I? Oh, blow it, I just will get up. So I got my coffee, got the computer on. Of course the clocks went back, didn't they? It's not 4:15 at all, is it? It's 3:15. So I've had 2 nights on the trot now with very little sleep, so I'm very tired. But I thought I'd show you this. I've got a nice thick juicy lean pork chop for tonight with some vegetables. And I looked in the freezer to see what veggies I have in a nice assortment, and I've run out of broccoli. So what I thought I'd do is I'm going to put these on the cooker and see how long they take to stew down, because I did actually hear somewhere that orchids are edible. This is all the cattleyas that came out of the holy clay pots, so I can't keep a straight face. How many of you fell for that? Eat my cattleyas like hell, but I do have to deal with them today. They are currently in soak in a mix of seaweed extract and CalMag, and I know somebody's going to say, somebody actually asked me, how much do you use? I never ever know how much I use of any of my fertilizers or additives because I always use my TDS meter. So I can tell you how many parts per million I ended up with, but I can't tell you how many drips or how many capfuls or how many teaspoons, because I don't do that. I don't work that way. So basically that was 30 parts per million of the seaweed extract and 80 of the CalMag for anybody who's interested. And that's just to give the roots a soak and get them wet. And I'll tell you something else as well when I do come to pot them. Won't be a minute. Not planning ahead again. Oh. Instead of going back in holy clay pots, some of them are going in the likes of that. Or these. So that's more air. So you have to bear in mind some of these, because the roots weren't so good and the roots were lost to a degree and hadn't been replaced, the holy clay pots wasn't actually enough air around the roots. Stuff was staying wet. So even more air, yeah? And they'll hang up okay. I've got quite a few, variety of sizes. And I've got a variety of sizes of plants. So one or two of the plants will definitely go back in small holy clay pots. They've come out of a large one, they'll go back into small ones. But yeah, I forgot I had all these open mesh baskets. I mean, it's impossible to keep anything too wet in them. There's virtually no pot, is there? It's just little bits of plastic. So, as I say, some of the cattleyas are going to go back in there. One of them I might mount, although the trouble is I've got an awful lot of mounts and I'm running out of hanging space. Although they do lend themselves to mounts very nicely. I'll think about it, but that's a job for this afternoon sometime. I need to get that done. So there's more work. Right, it has come to my notice via several other channels, because I would never know this. I decided a while ago to monetize my channel and just basically get a reward for the effort. That's the way I look at it, because I treat the YouTube channel thing as a job. You know, I do work and I get a small return for it, quite a small return. But it has come to people's notice that non-monetized channels and channels with far less subscribers than 1,000 are getting ads. And I thought, how the hell is that happening then? Because you can't be monetized until you get to 1,000 subscribers. And there's other criteria as well. It's not just that now. You have to get an average of so many views as well. So there's criteria that YouTube have set. These have changed over the years, but it's YouTube's way. That's how they work. So how are these ads just getting on there then? It suddenly dawned on me. I did look it up and actually verify this. It's not YouTube at all. YouTube owns Google. Google owns YouTube now. Guess who's putting the ads on there? Guess who's overriding YouTube's basic rules and criteria? It's Google. These are Google ads, not YouTube ads. And nobody gets a penny except Google. So the creators get nothing for having ads put on their videos when they may have specifically said, I don't want ads on my videos, and they're getting them anyway. It's actually outrageous, quite honestly. It's, without having a go at any particular country, it's just corporate greed at the end of the day. It's corporate greed, as if they don't make enough money. You know what they're doing now, don't you? Because the various countries that are on the ball are having a right go at the likes of Google to get them to pay tax properly, they're sort of thinking, well, if we're going to have to pay tax, we're going to have to make a bit more money, aren't we? So who can we clobber then? Who can we get more money out of? It's greed, just greed. And I got a little cross about that. See, I can't, because I am monetized, the ads on mine, I assume, are YouTube ads. Google might be putting some on there as well, I don't know. But if Google are putting ads on my videos and stopping YouTube doing it because they're taking up the space, then my money's going to go down. And I don't get a choice. It's not on. Right, let's get that out of the way. And for those of you who might not have caught Mix Mazdavalia's latest video, as it's quite new, I'll point people over there. Anybody who's ever bought anything off of Mick's shop, because he sells Mazdavalias and he allows other people to sell stuff as well, so it's a nice little place to go. UK only, obviously, but there was some comments about, you know, things going to and from Europe and stuff like that, and somebody said, thanks Boris. Yes, strictly speaking, it's not Boris, is it? The people here decided we would leave the EU, not Boris, although Boris was all for it. And at the end of the day, down the line, I see it being better, because I see us being able to deal with things for ourselves. But at the moment, it's a right mess. It really is. Messed up Ireland. You know, it is a mess at the moment. But it was a difficult thing to do at the end of the day, and the first one. And I think the EU deliberately made it as horrible as possible to put anybody else going down that road, because there were others thinking about it, and they may have thought, well, after all the hassles the UK had, perhaps we won't bother, perhaps we'll just stay put. But the EU's just got too big. It's big, clumsy. They can never make a flipping decision because you've got too many members now. It's gone beyond when it was good, or it has it, in my opinion. But we're stuck with it, whether we like it or I can't see the European Union ever breaking up completely. There'll always be one, I'm sure. But I've got a horrible feeling that it may get smaller rather than bigger. Basically because it's too clumsy at the moment. Nothing ever gets this done. There's never any decisions made. It takes too long for everything to go through. Because all the time you've got whatever it is. I can't even remember how many countries there are. But they've all got to agree to stuff, you know. Anyway, the Sunday chat bit today is going to be short and sweet. And it's based on, I looked up a couple of plants, that's what it was. And you know, when you get the sort of brief but generalised care guide sort of thing. And I just thought, you know, there's an awful lot of people that's all they can see. And they perhaps don't get anybody else or anywhere else contradicting some of that stuff. And what it came down to was this Kaneko up here, because it's for once in its life it's got no blooms. Now this is a primary cross between, I think it's Goldschmidtianum, which I haven't got, and Victoria Regina, which is where it gets its nice colour from. Pop up. But if you look up, a primary cross basically has mainly in equal parts traits of both of the parents. Now Victoria Regina is basically a cool grower, or cooler grower. It's not cold, cooler, because it is often found in deciduous forests. Well, therefore, by definition, if it's in a deciduous forest, then it's cooler than a tropical evergreen forest. That's nothing to do with orchids. That's just how they are. Goldschmidtianum I don't really know much about, but if I'd believed what I read, then this should be much drier in winter. So let's think about it. You know me, I don't believe the ancient scrolls and runes unless they make perfect sense, backed up by the plants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 new growths. Yeah? Cane's still growing. That one's finished. Cane's still growing. That one's finished. Cane's still growing. That one's finished. Is that plant in active growth? The simple answer is yes, if it was only the new growths. So now we're going to stop feeding and reduce the watering, are we? Like hell we are. That will get fed and watered along with my oncidiums. And as it's a mount, that will be more frequently than anything in a pot. So that will carry on getting summer treatment. Now the watering frequency will be a lot less because it won't dry out so quick, yes. And the feed level will be lower. Why? Because it can't grow as much as it did in the summer. Why? Short days, lower temperatures. So it's going to slow up. But the last thing I want it to do is stop and lose those new growths. They'll stall. So that's what sort of sparked the idea off. And you know, I mean, we have officially, reading the books, Places with 4 Seasons, we've come to the end of the growing season. It's now winter time. The stupid clocks went back last night and caught me out. I think that's the first time I've ever been caught out. Mind you, I wasn't with it at that time of day. But yeah, you know, we're down, I think we're down somewhere around 10 hours now. And by the end of November, we won't be far off 8 hours daylight, compared with 11 to 13 in the tropics. You know, these plants are just going to close down. If they don't stop, they're going to slow right up. But we've come to the end of the growing season. Next one along. New growth, new growth, new growth, new growth, new growth. New growth, new growth, new growth. So we've come to the end of the growing season, have we? Look at your plants. What else? There was another little one up here as well. Oh yeah, this Arangus, these blooms are still looking good. This has been out a long time. You know, the Mr. Sidii has been and gone. These are still there. I'm impressed. And I've really warmed to these. When they first opened, I sort of went, is that it? It's probably because I was expecting more, because when you see photographs, the scale is often missing. So you imagine things bigger than perhaps they really are, unless somebody puts a coin next to them or something. Get out, fly. But again, look, there's active growth in some of these little fans. So this is still growing. There's that fan there, it's got a new leaf coming. It's growing. Now Mr. Sidii isn't growing. That's just bloomed. It pushed out a couple of leaves back in the growing season. And my third Arangus, fastuosa, has never bloomed. Well, that looks like a spike to me. I'll put it in profile, just there. That's a spike, yay! So we're going to get some blooms on that, probably in about 2 months' time. They're very slow. But then you get to, in my mounted orchids, I watered my mounts today. Now that's not a dendrobium, fair enough. It's got a new growth there and another new growth there. Now they're going to slow up, because that's Cattleya. And in the main, they need good light. Not necessarily the highest light, but good light to grow well. And they're not going to get that with short day lengths and winter light in the UK. So that will slow up, but it's still growing, it's not stopped. So it needs some food. Yeah, it needs some backup to keep it going and not let it stall. As I say, I'm not going to get thousands of plants down, but you've got this one. Dripped all over me. This is a Phalaenopsis type dendrobium. Now let's think, is this growing? Well, that's a relatively new growth there. You can usually tell the Phalaenopsis type new growths because they haven't got the sheaths haven't hardened and gone brown. The whole cane is still sort of green, so that's a relatively new cane. But it's finished growing, there's no growing tip there. And the other new cane up here, well, that's finished growing as well. And there's not really any sign of new roots in there, so you could say that's finished growing. What about this then? Yeah? If it doesn't get any additional food in through the roots, it will use stored resources from the plant to push this spike out, swell those buds and open those blooms, which will leave the plant more depleted than it should be. It is growing something, not necessarily new leaves, but it's still growing something, so it still needs some food. A lot less than it would have been getting if that was happening in the summer, a lot less. What else? What about this larger one then, Oncidium type? This is a Oncidium Cheyenne, but that's a trade name. And you sort of look at this and you sort of think, well, these bulbs are sort of maturing. I can't see huge amounts of growth. But then you sort of think, well, hang on. What about this then? Hiding, look, right up through the centre of that leaf. And that is going to have a lot of buds. You just look at the shape of the tip of that spike. There's a lot of buds there. That's going to be a large spike. Yeah? And the other one that doesn't look as good, that didn't grow as well, you sort of think, well, that one's got a spike as well. So again, the plant might not be doing much, but it's pushing up 2 spikes. They'll need help, or they will shrivel the bulbs. You can do it that way if you want. You can sort of say, well, the plant has finished growing, I'm going to reduce the feed to next to nothing and reduce the watering down, because if it's soggy and wet and it's not growing, I'll lose my roots. You can do all that if you like, but you may jeopardise your spike, and they may not grow to their full potential and have as many blooms as they should have. And that's often the cause of spikes being far less of what they were perhaps when you bought it, and a lot of the time it's because your roots are not as good as they were once when those original spikes were produced. Not always that, but it can be. So you know, just because something's not chucking out new leaves like they're going out of fashion doesn't mean to say it's not growing. Oh, I'm not going to get that down. What else? But you could safely say that a lot of things in here are going to be growing slower, as from now. If they haven't slowed up already, they soon will. You're going to lose another 2 hours daylight over the next month. You know, heading down towards the 8. The shortest day length in the UK here on the south coast is just over 7.5 hours. And that lasts about 3 weeks, and then it starts coming back up again. So we've got that to look forward to. I updated my notes today, and without looking at the plants, but well, I had just watered them, fair enough. I just went down through all of my twinkle types and put in bud, in bud, in bud, in bud, because they're all in bud. But Nina was trying to work out, you know, there's a care collab coming up for twinkles, and there's a lot of people, I think, going to take part in that. It's a very popular orchid after all. And it would be nice if a lot of them were in bloom, wouldn't it? Well, you're going to have to wait a bit for mine. You know, they're not even pushing buds out from the spikes yet. The spikes are still extending. And twinkles are notoriously slow to mature their spikes, swell their buds and actually open. They take ages. So I reckon I've probably got a minimum of a month before I get any actually open blooms. And it could be 6 weeks. It's going to be a while. And they tend to bloom in the dark of winter, basically. So that is their time. Yeah, so I just thought I'd mention that, you know, don't necessarily go with words in books or even words on the internet. It's just look at your plant, really, especially, you know, where you've got those 4 distinct seasons. Now, if you grow in the home, to a degree, you counteract those because it doesn't start getting really cold. Well, unless you're one of those that refuses to pay for any heating and sits around in a fur coat with that on. I can't do that. I like to be comfortable. I don't like a hot house. I mean, 21, 22 is fine for me. And that's my sitting down doing nothing temperature. If I'm busy, I can take it lower than that and don't mind at all. But some people like really warm houses. They're up like 24, 25 degrees, you know. I would be uncomfortable at that heat working around the house doing stuff, you know. But, each to their own, as they say. Here's another one. That's a funny one. You do get plants that do the opposite to what you think they might do, what they should do, or what you think they should do, because of the country. Now this is my Cattleya cernua, was Sophronites, and all through the growing season this has done absolutely nothing. And now the growing season's finished, it's growing, and it's growing at quite a rate. It's pushing out all its new growths. Here, 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 here. That was 5, wasn't it? It could be more tucked away. There's 5 over that side, and another 2 over here. 6, 7. So there's 7, possibly 8 new growths on here, and each one of those, in theory, should have 3 to 5 blooms, and the blooms are a pretty good size for the plant size. And if all of those blooms come out at once, that's going to look pretty good. But all through the growing season, it did nothing. It rested in the growing season. Now we've got the shorter day lengths and the cooler temperatures, it's growing like mad. Silly thing. So, you know, don't ever take a generalised comment like reducing water in winter because it's cooler and shorter days. Look at the plant first, and if that plant's growing, then help it. It won't need as much help as those that burst into life in the spring and grow through the growing season, but they still need some help. The other Sophronitis I've got, now Cattleya obviously, is one of the presents in the Schwerter order. Now this hasn't bloomed yet, but given this style, as I said, they grow their new growth and the leaf is like folded in half, and then the leaf opens out, And normally the buds are inside ready to go, and as soon as they see daylight, the spike extends and the blooms open. So we could get blooms on that one. This is the one with the strange name, pedunculata. I think that's the first time I've said that smoothly, first go. So these two new growths on here could bloom. I mean, these are miniatures. Virtually all the Sophronitis were miniatures. That's why they were so popular in the earlier hybridization programs, and possibly still are. Two things they supplied in the Cattleya-Laelia mix: reduce the plant size, and in the main, introduce some red. Now, sometimes that red came out as a deeper purple in the lip or something like that. It didn't always impart the actual colour red, but it often deepened other colours, especially in the shades of purples and through the oranges and things. But they did dramatically reduce plant sizes, so they were very popular to bring plant sizes down. Some of the Cattleyas really are big. Quite honestly, as a plant, they're not only big, they're big and clumsy. Because they've got such stiff, rigid leaves and bulbs, if you get a plant that has got a leaf coming out that way and a leaf coming out that way, and you pick it up on your shelf and pull it towards you, perhaps to water it, it'll knock two pots over, because these won't bend. So if anything gets in their way and you don't notice and you pull, you'll knock something over, or you'll bring something down out of the roof or something. And Phalaenopsis come into the same boat. They've got that stiff, rigid sort of thing to them. Whereas oncidiums will just bend, they go with the flow sort of thing. You could put a big bushy oncidium through a narrow gap, as long as you pull it backwards, don't push it forwards, bend and break all the leaves, but as long as you pull it backwards, you can put it through quite a narrow gap. And the leaves will just, they won't break, they'll be fine. So keep your eye on what's growing and help it, but don't help it perhaps as much as you would have done in the summer months. And a lot of it is geared up to how fast things are going to dry. What you don't want is, for instance, like with your oncidiums, you were perhaps watering those in pots with the media you've chosen, and they were getting watered perhaps every 4 or 5 days through the growing season, and they were in active growth, which is fine if that's what was going on. And if they're still in active growth now, like in the UK, then you shouldn't be watering them as frequently unless your temperatures haven't changed. You might get away with it. But the chances are, even if your temperatures haven't changed much, because you've compensated with your house heating, your house heating, you still probably haven't compensated for the dramatic drop in daylight. So they still go slower, and if they go slower and you carry on watering and feeding at the same pace, chances are you'll rot your roots, because they won't use it up quick enough. And if you're watering by the calendar, and some people have to, well, I water my orchids on Sunday, it's my only day off, I get no choice. Well, stop and think, do they all need water? If that's all you can do, water once a week, then start to think, is that plant dry? Because if it's not, leave it. You're better leaving it a week and letting it dry than wetting it when it's already wet, because that becomes soggy. So, and it's a mistake an awful lot of people make, and some experienced growers make it, because they forget. You get into routines, and sometimes they're difficult to snap out of, because it takes your mind backing up and having another think, if you see what I mean. When something's been working for 5 or 6 months, it's very easy to just carry on doing the same thing. And if the seasons are changing, then you should be doing some changes as well, even in the home, simply because of the days. The people who don't need to change much are the people that grow in places like basements, where they've got artificial heating, artificial airflow, and artificial timer-controlled lighting. Well, you can have a growing season 12 months of the year if you want, if that's how you set your timers up. Right, I don't know how long that is, but I'm absolutely tired. I need to get something to eat, and I've still got to do this pot full of Cattleyas and get these onto stew. I don't know how long they're going to take to go soft, but but they certainly will have absorbed an awful lot of that. And what I might do is other holy clay pots could do with some water today, because they're the ones where the roots are okay and they have got the, you know, the chunky bark in, so they are drying reasonably quickly. So this might be better to be used to water those rather than throw it down the sink. If I've got the energy left after I've dealt with those, then maybe I'll, you know, I mean, it's not as if there's many, is there? 2, 4, 6, it's only 8 plants, it's not a big deal, is it? And that would save wasting this, and it would give them a little bit of a hormone and calcium boost. So we'll see how we go. And again, you know, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, it would be nice if you did. Just click the bell. And if you don't want to get pestered with emails because you leave your email logged in, then don't have notifications. Just don't switch notifications on. Then all you've done is click the bell. You won't get notified. That's fine if that's how you want to work. But it helps the channel, as does the thumbs up. It just helps YouTube keep its eye on the channel to see if it's growing upwards or sinking downwards. And again, thanks to the patrons. I think I've had a couple of new ones since I last mentioned it. Just bear in mind, if you are a patron and you're thinking about leaving, which I mean, it's entirely up to you, but today would be the day to do it because they're going to draw the cards tomorrow. So the payments come out on the 1st of the month. Just a reminder for those who might have forgotten that. So the payment comes out on the 1st of the month, or it's drawn on the 1st of the month. I think it probably shows on your account a day or two later. Nothing's ever instant, is it? Yeah. And the Buy Me a Coffee is trickling over quite nicely. I had to notate my bank statement to go with the, you know, application for the house to sort of show what's going on in there. You know, it's quite good, sort of state pension, private pension, YouTube income, because I'm not mentioning the word Patreon because I'd have to explain it. So I've just put the two together as YouTube. And then there's these random PayPal payments that just keep coming in, you know, like £6 here, £9 here. And I just put an R next to them. They're random, and I explained at the top. These are random donations from the YouTube channel for people who've just had something that they particularly liked or something like that. They're one-offs. There's no guarantee they're ever going to happen again, but there's a nice little trickle of those. I'm well pleased with the way that ticks over. So, the other thing, it's a bit naughty really, because it's not really my money, but the money from my mum's ISA and bank account, they closed that all down and put the money in my account as one of the executors, because that's what we decided to do. So the bank account is grossly inflated by that amount of money, which strictly speaking is not mine. Legally it's not really mine because the executors haven't got probate yet, so, you know, it belongs technically to the state. The government own all my mum's stuff until such time as the courts have decided we can have probate, in which case we can do what we like with it. But yeah, so I've just put early inheritance money rather than actually saying that this has got to be paid back. But it's enough to make the bank account look good. So hopefully the finances have been explained in such a way that they just sort of think it's okay. It seems like it's a local family-run agent, and they've got an awful lot of private, small investor-type landlords who maybe have just one property to let, things like that. So maybe it'll work. I hope so. You know, it would be a good one to get. There may well be others later down the line. I may sign the dotted line for that one and the next day go and have a look and there's a better one. Too late, missed it. But, you know, I'm going for that one until stopped, if you see what I mean. So we'll get on with that. I've still got some mum's paperwork. There's still some stuff to sort out, still some forms to fill in. You think you've finished with a company, and then another big envelope comes through. Oh, by the way, can all 4 of you sign this form? And can you fill in this, this and this? And can you enclose this and send it back to us, please? Just adds more time in. Getting there. Getting there. So, right, so that's it for today. as I said, thanks to the people who've subscribed, thanks for the thumbs up, thanks for the people who watch the ads, because I did choose to put the ads on there. But I'm going to try and dig down and see if I can find out somebody who's leaked it out, the information, because this sort of information, you can't get it. You know, the people who work for the companies are like sworn to secrecy. But, you know, people who are monetized are expecting to get their share from any adverts that are watched on the videos they've created. That's the deal. Those are in the terms and conditions. And if Google are overriding and put their own ads in as well, that's okay. But instead of, that's not okay, because that means Google are taking the money that is due for the creators. Corporate theft, if you want to be blunt. If that's what they're doing, I don't know that's whether that's true or not. But certainly Google are placing ads on videos that on channels that are not monetized, and some of those channels are quite small. You know, so it looks odd. You know. Anyway. Thanks for dropping by. See you next time. And as I said, there's probably not going to be videos now for a few days. I might be able to slot a quick one in. I'll tell you what, while I'm dealing with these cattleyas, if I stick the camera on, I should be able to get something out of that. Maybe 2 small ones or something that just gives me something to stick up on sort of Monday or Tuesday or whatever. I'll see, because it does slow me down. Anyway, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.